What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Trav from Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. I'm here for the grand finale with my main man, Mr. Paul Workman.
It's good.
Hey, it is good.
And yeah, it is.
It was good. It was a good season finale.
Yeah.
A lot of character development came into what's the word I'm looking for? Fruition.
Fruition was the word I was just about to say.
Yeah. And yeah, man, what a hell of a season finale, man. I loved this show.
Yeah, I know I said it a lot in the last episode, but I really hope this gets picked up somewhere, and I really hope it's HBO.
Yeah, you sent me that article where the showrunner slash creator of the show or whatever, Eliza Clark, had a little interview talking about it, and I'm more than certain this thing's getting picked up by HBO. There was a little wink in the interview, but I can't talk.
The one interviewer asked her point blank, "You think it's gonna get picked up by HBO?" She's like, "Oh well, things are moving. We'll see what happens."
Yeah, but what's cool is that she talks so highly on FX and Hulu, and it just seems like it's not that they dislike the show. It's just they had dumped so much money, and with all their contracts coming up, they just financially decided not to pick up the show.
It just seemed like a bad set of circumstances, and also not bad-mouthing Hulu and FX on the way out makes her look better to any other potential buyers, because it's not like some other things where you could kind of burn a little bit of a bridge, but if HBO's looking at her and she's like, well, they can all go to hell, HBO might be like, what's she gonna say about us if we cancel on her?
Yeah, and the show's not so hot, you know what I mean? So it's not like a Walking Dead situation where they could pretty much say AMC is garbage and they'll still have 5 other networks saying, well, come over here.
Right.
So yeah, no, I'm sure it's all politics and stuff, but yeah, it's crazy, dude. If HBO picks it up, they're getting a nice IP for next to nothing.
Yeah, I mean, everything's already in place. They're just
everything's in place. They just got to put up the episode money, the contract money, and that's it. Whereas FX put in all the startup money and really got nothing in return for it.
Yeah, and I mean, you're paying out about 7 or 8 leads right now. That's about it. I mean, it's shot on location, so and all the places that have been set up so far, all gone.
So I break this episode down, and then can you kind of compare where it would be placed in the novels?
I'm gonna say not really, because everything's so different.
Nice.
Like, everything's different right now. So I really like that we start on dinner with the Brown
flashback.
And we get to see their family dynamic together, which is something we hadn't really seen up to this point, was all of them together. And York's got his girlfriend there. What was the conversation on that first one? That's the one where he's trying to explain the trick.
He's got a new escape trick where he's trying to make it like not a political statement, but
he's talking about Elvis Presley and how Elvis Presley had a twin who died during birth, and trying to talk about how the fate and greatness and how things are thrust upon us, or what would happen in other situations.
Yeah, foreshadow.
Yeah. So his dad's kind of needling him about it. His mom's placating a lot of his ideas, and then Hero's like, hey, what about me? And what about adding me to the trick? And he's like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. And she's like, never mind, I don't want to be one of the chains that pulls you down. and he's trying to backtrack and be like, oh, that's not what I was talking about. So you really get how this family works from that conversation.
Yeah, this is a toxic ass family, bro. There's a lot of therapy that needs to happen, and trauma that needs to get over. Clearly, Hero's felt like she's been shit on by her parents her whole life. Right. It seems like the mom favors York a little bit more, like that's her baby boy, but the dad shits on them both equally. Yeah. And but he also shits on the mom too. He's just a straight douche. And Hero's had a couple drinks, and it's not good.
So where do we go? What's the first storyline we pick up? Do we want to talk separate storylines again like we did?
Well, there's not really much for we
President
get
Brown.
Sam comes into President Brown and try and helps them escape, but they really don't show too much of. I mean, they escape, but we don't really know what exactly is happening with that situation. They pretty much had a scene, and that's it.
Yeah, they had.
They might have flashed back once more.
Yeah, I think 3 times. So Sam. So you see President Brown and why am I suddenly? I cannot remember the girlfriend's name.
Yeah, I can't. York's fiance, whatever you want to call her. Yeah, I have no idea what her name is.
They've escaped the Pentagon together, and they're holed up in a house, and his fiance is essentially like, hey, you need to leave here. They're going to find you, and they're going to kill you.
Right.
So when we flash back to them, Sam has come and found President Brown and is telling her that Hero's in trouble and they need to go rescue her. But before they can, Sam asks if they leave, if they're going to take the van that's parked around the corner, and they're like, I don't know what van you're talking about. And then the next thing you know, they're being captured.
Right.
So we end the season with them in a cell, and we should come back to that once we.
Because me and you are thinking the same thing.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. So I guess Hero's story isn't much in this episode, because her story pretty much all revolves around the Amazons trying to take over Marysville,
right?
The town where York is held up,
right?
Being held. So the two of them are, so Nora and Roxanne, still kind of having that tension and power. They go to storm the town, and as they're storming the town, all their girls are getting killed, and everything's going terribly.
Yeah, but just to backtrack a little bit, even before they storm the town, we get a situation where York and the young lady, kind of things get hot and heavy as they kind of become more what's the word I'm looking for? More naked in front of each other, in a sense, where she confides in him about, her killing somebody in some form. They didn't expand on it too much, and him kind of being like a loser, or kind of not a perfect, last cis man to kind of be left, what I mean, type of situation. Right. And then we also get Agent 355 and what's her name?
Allison Mann.
Yeah, what's it called? Start to build a rapport too, and we get into a situation where they essentially cuddle at night, and she gets a good night's sleep, what I mean, the agent. And I think that's like super significant.
So they're talking about so when we see 355 for the first time, and that she's asleep in the middle of the road,
right? Yeah.
The woman who brought her into the Culper ring is seen standing above her, and ask her if she's okay. And they cut back to 355. When they cut back, it's the leader of the de facto like head of the mayor still. And 355 stands up. And she's like, sorry, thank you. And she goes off. So she goes and talks to Allison, 355. And Allison says, have you ever tried tying yourself to the bed? And she says, well, I tried, but that didn't work because apparently I can get out of any restraints in my sleep. It's like the last like good night's sleep I had, I put, what'd she say, a 10-pound something,
sandbag
on her chest. She's like, and I got a good night's sleep. So Allison's filling that role of that 10-pound sandbag.
Right. Yeah, and she gets a good night's sleep until they're woken up to the invasion. And from there the episode is wild, off the chain. Yeah. Hell of a season finale. It for these kind of shows, it's kind of the perfect season finale. How you want to go out. There's a lot going on, a lot of action. A lot of stuff comes to a head.
Yeah, it satisfies all the storylines while leaving all the characters in a new place to start the next season.
Right.
So President Brown and Sam and York's fiance are all being detained in a place we don't know where it is. But when they cut to the closed circuit television feed, so they had power there, of all things, there's a woman watching them, and it pulls back from her, and we see the woman who brought 355 into standing there. So we know she's in play. And then as the invasion's going on, 355 has York and Allison and sorry, I'm forgetting people's names. I didn't have time to write notes.
I never knew her name. Pretty much the chick that York slept with, that he's been building a rapport with the last couple of
episodes. And he said her name quite a few times in this episode, especially later on. So 355 has them escape out one way of the house that they're in, and she goes to get herself and the trans man that she is in this house with captured. So the old get captured to save everyone else routine. So Yorick and Allison and the woman that York was sleeping with are escaping through this field as Hero comes upon them. And as Hero's coming after them, she tells him to stop, and when he turns around, the two of them have seen each other for the first time since everything happened.
Yeah.
And because I cried during everything, I got really emotional.
Yeah, that's not the scene I got emotional during. And
there was another time I got emotional.
Yeah. And
I'm not sure if it's the same time.
It might be. But yeah, that whole scenario, seeing each other, and then here comes the other Amazon woman, and dude, when Homegirl got shot in the head from afar, I was like, holy shit, I did not see that coming.
No.
It was a good touch. I really dug it. And yeah, pretty much Hero saves the group, lets them ride off, and then she kills her and your teammate, I guess you could say. I don't really know what the
cult mate. I don't know.
Cult mate. There you go. But yeah, essentially they end up escaping.
Yeah. So now we've seen
sister, and now she. Oh, and they also get told that their mom is dead.
Oh yeah,
that's the news that has spread.
Because the news has spread that the president has died.
Right.
And so Regina, who is supposedly the president when she got shot, when she died, they took that as the president.
They're not lying technically. Yeah. They are just unaware that their mom was no longer president for that time being.
Yeah.
Right.
So they escape. Hero shoots the girl that shot the woman that York slept with. And So,
and there's something else that we skipped by.
I was gonna say we haven't talked about Nora and Roxanne enough at this point. And what are you thinking of?
That I was gonna bring up the dream. Yeah. Amber Tamlin's character.
Amber Tamlin's character having the dream where she's lactating and then sleeping with
York, and
York.
Yeah. So
she wakes up next to Christine, the pregnant woman, and tells her essentially she needs to go get pregnant by York.
Right. Yeah. Which is crazy because it's like she takes this dream as he's alive, and it's a weird. This is what psychos are made out of. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, but she essentially knows he is alive because,
all the rumors and there's enough evidence there to. But the fact that the dream is the affirmation that he's alive,
President Brown had told everybody he was alive when they were.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Okay.
So that she could protect Christine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, Nora and Roxanne, which is probably one of my favorite storylines right now, and I really want to see. Well, I guess this storyline is
finished.
Spoiler alert, over. Yeah. Yeah. So
and by Nora, you mean Victoria?
Victoria, yeah, who we learned about.
The big
so she's talking to her daughter at one point and telling her daughter gets her period. And she tells her daughter, this is really exciting. She's like, why? She's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So she tells her that she's becoming a woman and she needs to be brave and strong. And her daughter tells her, you sound like Roxanne. She said, no, Roxanne sounds like me.
Yeah.
Which is a line the moment I feel like she had finally decided who she was in this show.
Yeah.
And as they're storming the town and all the Amazons are dying around her, and the other ones are just looking frightened and scared and crying and cowering behind benches, she surrenders.
Yeah.
And she's like, sorry, we didn't mean to storm your town like this. We'll see you later. So the other part that I got really emotional during is when the one girl in the Amazons got shot and the daughter asked to go help her.
Yeah.
And Nora's like, no, you can't do that. She looks at her, she says, Mom, I'm brave and strong.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
It's so funny we both get emotional during this episode, but just completely different scenes.
You're gonna have to let me know when you got emotional.
Yeah. But no, it was cool because, man, this show is so well written because you get that when they first are introduced, they have a strong bond. Nora's looking after her daughter who's been injured, and then this rift gets created while they're in this supermarket, and then now at the very end, they have found a way to come back together again. Yeah. Her and her daughter, and essentially when Nora when she says the line that no, Roxanne sounds like me, I don't sound like Roxanne, and right. Here comes the big spoiler, she pretty much stands up to Roxanne and fucking shoots her in the chest and kills her.
Yeah.
And dude, again, but the story writing, again, with the fact that she hated her so much because she reminded her of herself. So she had to kill her old self in order to become this whole metaphor thing. It was so fucking good, dude.
It was
God. Especially when she's like, you don't have the fucking gut. Boom.
Before she even finishes the sentences.
Yes. I was like, yeah, take that. And, then she tells everybody Roxanne ain't your leader. I'm not your leader. You're your own leader.
Yeah.
Nobody's the boss of you.
And her and Hero are gonna remake the Amazons into real warriors instead of just playing weekend warriors. Again, I really hope it gets picked up so we can see that.
Yeah. So
also running throughout this episode, the one thing we forgot to mention was the second dinner date. That they're having, in which Hero reveals that she's sleeping with a married man.
Hero reveals or York? York kind of throws her into the fire, even though he doesn't know. He knows that, you know, she has a boyfriend. I don't think he thought she's banging a married man or anything like that, but he tried to get the bad energy out, and that's the kind of stuff Hero's talking about. He threw her to the wolves to get the heat off of him, and it just turned into this big thing.
And she calls her father a hypocrite for sleeping with a teaching assistant, and that real toxic family. Again,
and I can't, you know, the mother excuses herself from the table, and she whispers in her ear, and we don't know what she says yet, but I know that it's gonna play into something, you know, whatever it is that she said to her, because you could see it in Hero's face. She said something. I don't know if it's necessarily vulgar or mean, or I don't know what it is that she said, but it affected her in some way, and I know it's going to be a point of interest going forward. And again, talk about a well-written show, dude. It still left breadcrumbs for the next season.
Yeah, so other breadcrumbs, we get 355 finds another one of those trackers and picks it up, and they follow the signal to find a car with a full tank of gas.
Yeah. I do want to say something before we super dive into that, because this is my emotional moment, is when Agent 355 finally meets up with Man and Yorick in like this little barn type thing. You know, Yorick's bawling. He's a mess. He's found out his mother died, and she consults him.
He found out his sister's alive, his mother is dead, and the woman that he was kind of creating a real bond with got shot in the head.
Yeah.
Just so this guy's a really wild last couple of minutes from his life.
And the fact that she consults him as like a friend, and tells him about her family, and you know how this situation happened with the grandma, and they took her to the club, and there was this huge fight, and they get in the van, and that was their last moment as a family, was this huge fight blowout, and then they're all dead, all of them except for her. And it goes back to York saying, if I wasn't alive, they wouldn't even be in this mess, and her saying, I shouldn't have lived, you know, but I found a way to keep moving on. And that got me, I had your boy you know, with them hot tears down his cheek, man, because I was like, this chick she's got a real bond now with these people. And of course, York no longer wants to be baggage and a carry-on bag. He wants to help, and she's going to train him, and they're off to the races.
She gives him an out. She says, we don't have to go. You're free to go. And he said, no, we're doing this because I don't want to be a burden anymore, and I don't want to be like an experiment or anything like that. I want to do
I got goosebumps, bro.
It's like, I want to do the right thing.
And her, you know, she now has to deal with this culprit ring, who she fears these people because they've turned her into something she doesn't necessarily want to be, but she has her two friends with her, so she has the courage to tackle it head on, you know what I mean? And that also too just hits your boy in the feels.
And they set up that moment where he asked about the people she works with, and she said her handler was a man. It's like, so there were no other women? She's like, well, they just kept us separate. We didn't know each other. So you really get this, because he asks if she's lonely. He calls her lonely.
Right.
She's like, I've never been lonely. And, so just a lot of character development for her in this episode. And she's so good. She's so good in this role.
Yeah, and it's cool. You know, pretty much they ride off to go, you know, to wherever the map, you know, this place. And of course, me and you know, we already know President Brown's there. You know what I mean? She's being kept.
Yeah.
Well, you assume that it's the same location that they're driving to. It may not be. We know it's the same people. Yeah. But I'm thinking, you know, we're going to see some form of a reunion. And who knows what the hell is going to happen in the second season. So is the culprit ring in the graphic novel?
Yeah, the culprit ring's
a
big part of the graphic novel.
Are they this big and mighty in the graphic novel too?
I mean, they're they're just an underground ring of spies that, you know, people don't know about. You never know when you're going to run into one kind of thing. One of the big things right now that's really different from the novel is President Brown just pretty much remains President Brown throughout the graphic novel.
Right.
Like there's no like blowing up the Pentagon.
Yeah. There's more to her character right now than in the graphic novel.
They're just doing something different with her. And Beth is the name of the fiance.
Okay.
Beth is not really a big character. Like, she's more of, I guess, a MacGuffin is the best thing I can compare her to. She's the thing that Yorick's trying to get.
Yeah.
Not that I, calling a woman a thing. Just his relationship with her is the goal of the comic, and you don't see her much.
And so we pretty much gathered that originally Yorick was fine hanging on to her coattails and her success, as long as he was known as a guy that treated her right and did right by her. Like, that was enough to satisfy him.
Right.
And that's kind of changed a little bit now. Now he wants to be somebody, quote unquote. Is that kind of the gimmick in the novel too?
Yeah, it's pretty much how it ends up in the novel too. And like, to kind of spoil the graphic novel, we're 10 episodes into this show, and it's not going to end the same way. I can almost guarantee it. They get to Beth at the end of the graphic novel, and he's with her, and he's like, "I'm a completely different person than I was when we were together, and this isn't a relationship anymore."
Right.
And it shouldn't be. Like, that's the best way that graphic novel could have ended. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything else from it.
Right.
That's how that storyline ended, and like.
Well, I got a feeling that's going to still happen here too. Just don't know how. But you know what I mean? I don't feel like he feels like he has to be with her anymore because he has his own destiny.
Right. And also, that's not really the goal of this show.
No, right, yeah.
That's not, like, he's not trying to find Beth in this show. They're going to San Francisco. That is the goal of his character in this show. Because I guess at this point, when we take Beth out of Australia, as she was in the comic, taking her out of Australia and keeping her in New York, he has to assume that something's wrong with her since she never came back to him.
Right.
And it was like, but he just didn't see her in, what was it, 3 months that he was hiding out in their apartment, and she never came back. That's kind of a clear sign to somebody. But when she's in Australia and he's trying to get to Australia to see her, it's a whole different goal. Yeah,
for sure. So hell of a season, man. I'm more than confident that that the show's gonna get picked up. How long do we gotta wait? Again, the show was a development from 2015, and it took till 2021 to finally get it. So hopefully not too long to get the second season, but I'm pretty confident that the show's going to get picked up and we're going to see a second season.
Yeah, pretty much what I'm hoping. Just we're not going to wait too long for this, because
any last words on the show?
No, I've really enjoyed the ride of this first season. And if we get a second season, I hope they can keep on this storyline, because like I said, they ended some really cool places, and the idea that each season is going to give us new challenges for Yorick and new locations for him to different kinds of people to have to interact with is more exciting.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak prematurely, because Sandman is right around the corner, and I'm really looking forward to that on Netflix. That just looks like it's done so well. But as of right now, I don't think I can name you a comic series or graphic novel type of front to back story. I still haven't seen Watchmen on HBO, and that never really got a full. They didn't get to finish that, but
they told the story they wanted to tell with that season, and they pretty much said, until we think we have a more story to tell, we're not just going to run into a second season. And I'm so happy for that, because that 9 episodes of TV is possibly 9 of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen.
Right. So that was what I was going to say about this. I haven't seen Watchmen yet. And again, Sandman's coming out, so I don't want to speak prematurely, but this might be the best graphic novel comic, even if I've never read them before, that I've seen that's an adaptation of something. So good. This show is so good.
It is so good. And I'm gonna go say, if Watchmen didn't exist, that this one would probably be right up towards the top. But I have so much love for that Watchmen series, especially because it's a sequel to the comics. So they didn't try to just adapt,
shoehorn in a bunch of stories.
They said this is a continuation. It's essentially the time has passed from the comic to the show. You got to jump on those 9 episodes. They're so good. And
something else I like too is, I know people are big on this, the source materials there, just follow it. And I do think sometimes that needs to be done, especially for big IPs. Like, you don't want to do too much to Harry Potter. You don't want to do too much to Lord of the Rings. I get it. But one thing that made Game of Thrones really good was, if I read the books and then I watched the show, I'm satisfied that I'm not spoiled either way. I'm getting something different. And I like this, that I can now, let's just say the show gets done and it's finished 4 years from now. I can go buy the full set of this graphic novel and I can get a similar story, but it's not the same story. And it gives me a whole different feeling than what the show's giving me.
Yeah. And
like
again, that's what I like about this adaptation, is that it's not the same story, but I also, as you said with Harry Potter, you want to, some things you want to stick close to. If we're going to do something like Harry Potter, set it outside of the book series. Let's look at the wider wizarding world or whatever. Let's look at that. Kind of like this Lord of the Rings show that's coming up is going to be taking place in a different time.
Right.
But yeah, this isn't like a world that people are familiar with. So it's not a world that's been lived in by the majority of
a mass amount of people.
Culture.
Yeah, for sure.
So to have this as a jumping off point that could possibly get people interested in the comics, which you should read these comics. They're so good.
Absolutely.
Also, I think Brian K. Vaughan's Ex Machina is getting...
Yes, I heard about that.
Turned into a series with Oscar Isaac.
Right, and maybe I'm wrong, but didn't you say you really weren't a fan of that movie? Or is it the opposite?
No. Okay, so number one, big fan of the movie Ex Machina. Has nothing to do with the comic Ex Machina.
Oh, okay, I did not know that.
They're doing a new version of the comic, adaptation of the comic, and Oscar Isaac's also going to be in that.
Okay.
But that movie rules.
Cool. Then that's pure coincidence.
Yeah, it's just weird, but he's perfect for the role, so I'm excited to.
Kind of like in this Chucky series that they casted the guy as the uncle, but he was the doctor in Cold of Chucky, but it's a completely different character, so it gets weird, and it's like, well, that's confusing. So then you got to research it and go, it's just the same guy, but he's playing a different guy. It's
just Don Mancini liked working with him so much.
Right.
Hey, come on, man, do the show too.
Dude, right, yeah. So okay.
Dude, I hope he gets killed in every Chucky thing, and then just comes back as a different character in every Chucky thing.
So yeah. Thank you for joining me for these 10 episodes. Hopefully we get to come back and do another season.
Hopefully, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, so go ahead and let everybody know where they're going to find you at.
All right. Well, you can find me on my podcast, the Oscar Worsty Podcast, every Wednesday, where you can find podcasts. And if we're not where your podcast can be found, you can let us know at Oscar Worsty Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and on the Oscar Worsty Podcast on Facebook. You can find me personally at Father of the Fear across the platforms of Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, which I don't do as much anymore, and Letterboxd, where I keep a running tally of all the movies that I watch.
I know in festival season that TikTok's gonna be lit again. I know that.
Man, I don't know. Those tickets are so expensive, and cramming 40 movies into a week is so hard.
And hey, who knows if they're gonna do the virtual thing next?
I know Sundance has already announced they are.
Okay.
And I think if Slam Dance is $25 again, I'll definitely do Slam Dance.
Yeah.
Because I got 2 weeks on that one. I didn't have to cram all those movies into one week.
The other one was 3 days?
No, they were both like 5 or 6.
Oh, okay.
Sundance and South by Southwest.
But was it like 130 movies or something?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I ended up watching like 75 movies in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And as much as we all love movies,
yeah,
you know, that's when you eat pizza every day, you kind of don't want pizza anymore. So,
sometimes.
But yeah, you can find me, of course, Trav, every Tuesday on the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks podcast. You can also find me on Thursdays with Paul. If you enjoyed us babbling, you can listen to us babble some more about Martin Scorsese every Thursday with Zach McCoy from Oscar Worsty's and you can listen to both of those on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. If it exists, it's there, and you can find me personally on the Instagram at ZK Audio. You can find me on the Twitter at TRAVIOSZK, where I'm also on Letterboxd. And I'm back to ranking my 2021 movies. I've already watched 2 2021 movies today because it is November 2nd, and I am in full swing. Thank you guys again. If you have not checked out the show, make sure you check out the show. You can binge it now. I'm sure a lot of people were waiting, so they can binge the whole thing. That's kind of how it goes.
That seems to be the prevailing theory right now.
Yeah, I'm still a fan of the week-to-week stuff. I think it draws out a show, gives us stuff to talk about. When it just gets loaded up, next week there's going to be another show, and you ain't going to be talking about that show no more. So
yeah, I like to think about a show for a whole week before I get more of it. So.
Exactly. So, but those damn Americans, they want, and they take, damn it. So... thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Thanks again, everybody, for watching another episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Make sure you follow, subscribe to the channel. Podcast, we got that too. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and hit that bell for further episodes and notifications. Thanks a lot to our patrons. And if you don't mind, join the Patreon. We'll be having new specials coming up soon.